The sun hung low over the Santa Monica Mountains, casting a golden glow across the rugged trails where Margot Robbie pedaled her mountain bike.
Look out!
Dust kicked up beneath her tires, her breath steady despite the steep incline. She'd been riding these paths for years, ever since she'd made Los Angeles her second home. The solitude, the burn in her legs, the whisper of the wind through the chaparral. It was her escape from the flashing cameras and red carpets. Today, though, the air felt different. Thicker. A faint whiff of smoke curled into her nostrils as she crested a ridge. Margot slowed, her sharp blue eyes scanning the horizon. A thin plume of gray rose from a distant canyon, barely noticeable against the hazy afternoon sky. Her gut twisted. She'd grown up in Australia, where bushfires were a way of life, and she knew that smell. Fire. Not a backyard barbecue, not a controlled burn. This was trouble. She pulled her phone from her backpack. No signal. Typical for these hills. She squinted toward the smoke, now thickening, curling upward like a warning. Down the trail, voices echoed. A group of hikers, maybe half a dozen, emerged from a switchback below. They were laughing, oblivious, their backpacks bouncing as they trudged along. Margot's gaze darted between them and the smoke. The wind was picking up, pushing the haze their way. She knew these trails like the back of her hand, and that canyon they were heading into? It was a death trap, narrow, choked with dry brush, and no easy way out. "Hey," she shouted, her Aussie accent softened by years in Hollywood, but still carrying that no-nonsense edge. The hikers froze, turning toward her. A guy in a red cap raised a hand, confused. "You see that smoke?" she called, pointing. "That's a fire, and it's coming this way. You need to move. Now." The group exchanged glances, unsure. A woman with a ponytail stepped forward, frowning. "It's probably nothing, right? Just a little brush fire?" Her voice had that hopeful lilt people use when they don't want to believe the worst. Margot hopped off her bike, letting it clatter to the ground. She strode toward them, her presence commanding despite her dirt-streaked tank top and shorts. "I've seen fires like this before. It's not nothing. That canyon you're heading into, it's a funnel. If the fire gets there, you're done. Follow me." The hikers hesitated, but the urgency in her voice cut through their doubt. The guy in the red cap nodded, and the others fell in line. Margot grabbed her bike, her mind racing. She knew a route, a sketchy, narrow trail that climbed to a ridge with a fire break. It wasn't easy, but it was their best shot. The smoke was thicker now, the air growing warm. She could hear the faint crackle of flames in the distance. "Let's go," she barked, leading the way. The hikers scrambled to keep up, their chatter replaced by heavy breathing. Margot's bike bounced over rocks as she navigated the trail, her eyes flicking between the path and the horizon. The fire was moving faster than she'd expected. Too fast. The trail was a beast, steep, rocky, and barely wide enough for a single file. Margot led the charge, her bike weaving through gnarled roots and loose gravel. Behind her, the hikers stumbled, their faces tight with fear as the crackle of the fire grew louder. The sky was turning orange, the smoke stinging their eyes. Margot's heart pounded, but she kept her voice steady. "Keep moving. Don't stop," she yelled, her words cutting through the rising panic. The group was a mixed bag. The guy in the red cap, Jake, was fit but rattled, his eyes darting to the smoke. The ponytail woman, Sarah, was tough, keeping pace despite a limp from a twisted ankle. There was a teenage girl, Lily, clutching a water bottle, her face pale, and her dad, Mike, who kept muttering about how they should have stayed home. Two others, a lanky guy named Ethan and his girlfriend, Tara, trailed at the back, whispering nervously. Margot's mind was a map, every twist of the trail etched into her memory. She'd ridden this route after long days on set, memorizing its curves and shortcuts. The firebreak was maybe a mile away, a wide strip of cleared land where they could hunker down if the fire didn't jump it. But the flames were closing in, the heat licking at their backs. She glanced over her shoulder, seeing embers floating in the air like deadly fireflies. "Margot, right?" Jake panted, jogging to catch up. "You sure this is the way? That fire's getting close." She didn't break stride. "Trust me, I know these hills. That canyon you were in? It's a death trap. This trail's your only shot." She didn't tell him how narrow their window was. No need to freak them out more. A sudden roar made them all freeze. A gust of wind carried the fire's voice, a deep, hungry growl. Trees on the next ridge erupted in flames, the orange wall surging toward them. Lily screamed, and Mike pulled her close. "We're not going to make it," Tara cried, her voice cracking. Margot spun around, her eyes fierce. "Yes, we are. Look at me. You stop, you die. Move." She didn't wait for a response, pushing her bike faster, her legs burning. The hikers followed, driven by her certainty. The trail narrowed further, forcing Margot to ditch her bike against a boulder. She'd come back for it. Maybe. The smoke was choking now, the heat pressing against their skin. Margot's lungs burned, but she kept her pace, shouting directions. "Left here. Watch the drop." The trail hugged a cliff, a sheer fall on one side, flames licking up the other. Ethan slipped, his foot sending rocks skittering into the abyss. Margot grabbed his arm, yanking him back. "Stay focused," she snapped, and he nodded, wide-eyed. The firebreak was close. She could see the open ridge ahead, a faint promise of safety. But the fire was relentless, leaping from tree to tree, the wind feeding its fury. Margot's mind raced. If they didn't make it to the firebreak before the flames, they'd be trapped. She pushed harder, her voice hoarse from shouting. "Almost there. Keep going." The ridge opened up, and there it was, the firebreak. A wide, barren strip of dirt, carved to stop wildfires in their tracks. Margot led the group to the center, their footsteps kicking up dust as they collapsed, gasping. The fire roared just beyond the ridge, a wall of flame devouring the trees they'd left behind. Embers rained down, sizzling as they hit the ground. Margot scanned the group, counting heads. All 6 were there, shaken but alive. Sarah clutched her ankle, wincing, while Lily clung to her dad, tears streaking her face. Jake was pacing, his red cap soaked with sweat. Ethan and Tara sat close, their hands locked together. The air was thick with smoke, but the firebreak was holding, for now. "Don't get comfortable," Margot said, wiping sweat from her brow. "We're not out of this yet." She pointed to the far side of the firebreak, where a dirt road led down to a valley. "That road connects to a ranger station, maybe 2 miles out. If we can get there, we're safe." Mike shook his head, his voice shaky. 2 miles? With that fire? We'll never make it." Margot crouched in front of him, her gaze steady. "We will. I've got you this far, haven't I?" She didn't wait for an answer, standing and scanning the horizon. The fire was circling, the wind shifting unpredictably. They had minutes, maybe less, before the flames jumped the firebreak. She grabbed a stick, sketching a quick map in the dirt. "Here's the plan. We stick together, move fast, and stay low. The road's mostly downhill, but there's a stream crossing that's tricky. Follow my lead, and don't look back." Her voice was calm, but inside, her heart was racing. She'd seen fires like this in Australia. Unpredictable, merciless. But she wasn't about to let these people die. The group nodded, their fear tempered by her resolve. Margot led them toward the road, her eyes scanning for embers or flare-ups. The fire was louder now, a constant roar, and the heat was unbearable. Sarah limped, leaning on Jake, while Lily stayed close to Mike. Ethan and Tara brought up the rear, their faces grim. Halfway down the road, the wind shifted again, and Margot's stomach dropped. Smoke billowed from the ridge they'd just left, and flames flickered at the edge of the firebreak. It was jumping. "Run!" she shouted, breaking into a sprint. The group followed, their footsteps pounding the dirt. The stream was ahead, a shallow ribbon of water glinting in the fading light. If they could cross it, the fire might slow. They reached the stream, the water cold against their legs. Sarah stumbled, and Margot hauled her up, her arms strong from years of stunt training. "Keep going," she urged, her voice cutting through the chaos. The flames were closer now, licking at the trees above the road. Embers fell like rain, singeing their clothes. The ranger station was in sight, a small cabin, its lights glowing faintly through the smoke. Margot's legs burned, her lungs screaming, but she didn't slow. The hikers followed, their fear giving way to desperation. They were so close. The ranger station loomed ahead, a beacon in the haze. Margot pushed forward, her voice hoarse as she shouted, "Almost there. Don't stop." The fire was relentless, the heat searing their backs. The road was narrow, flanked by burning brush, and the smoke was so thick they could barely see. But Margot knew this path, every curve, every rock. She'd ridden it 100 times, and now it was their lifeline. Lily tripped, her water bottle rolling into the dirt. Margot doubled back, grabbing her arm and pulling her up. "You're okay, kid. Stay with me." Lily nodded, tears streaming down her face. Mike was right behind, his face red with effort. Sarah was struggling, her ankle swollen, but Jake half-carried her, his jaw set. The fire was everywhere now, the roar deafening. A tree exploded into flames to their left, showering sparks. Tara screamed, and Ethan pulled her forward, his eyes wild. Margot's mind was razor-sharp, every instinct honed. She'd faced danger on set, stunts, explosions, but this was real. No director to call cut. No safety net. The station was 50 yards away. 40. 30. A ranger burst out of the cabin, waving them in, a radio crackling in his hand. "Hurry," he shouted, his voice barely audible over the fire. Margot pushed the group forward, herding them like a shepherd. "Go, go, go," she yelled, her voice raw. They stumbled through the door, collapsing onto the floor as the ranger slammed it shut. The air inside was cooler, cleaner, though the smoke still seeped through the cracks. The ranger, a grizzled man named Tom, was already on the radio, calling for evac. "Chopper's on its way," he said, tossing them water bottles. "You're damn lucky." Margot leaned against the wall, her chest heaving. The hikers were a mess, coughing, shaking, but alive. Lily hugged her dad, sobbing. Sarah gave Margot a weak smile, her ankle propped on a chair. Jake pulled off his red cap, running a hand through his hair. "You're Margot Robbie, right?" he said, almost sheepish. She laughed, a short, tired sound. "Yeah, and you're all still here. That's what matters." She took a swig of water, her hands trembling slightly. Outside, the fire roared, but the station's metal roof and concrete walls held strong. The chopper's thrum grew louder, a promise of rescue. As they waited, the hikers told their stories. Vacationers, locals, a family on a weekend trip. They'd been clueless about the fire, too caught up in their hike to notice the signs. Margot listened, her eyes on the window, watching the flames dance in the distance. She'd saved them, but it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like survival. The helicopter landed in a clearing nearby, its blades cutting through the smoke. Tom ushered them out, and Margot helped Sarah limp to the chopper. One by one, they climbed in, the hikers' faces a mix of relief and exhaustion. As the chopper lifted off, Margot looked down at the burning hills, her bike somewhere in the chaos below. She'd get another one. The hikers were quiet, the weight of what they'd escaped sinking in. Jake leaned over, his voice low. "You didn't have to do that. Risk your life for us." Margot shrugged, her eyes on the horizon. "Couldn't just ride by, could I?" She gave him a small smile, then turned back to the window. The fire was still burning, but they were safe. For now, that was enough.